Hi everyone, how are we? I'm excited to be here. Thanks to the B2C team. I think this is our second time sponsoring, and it's always such a great event. Walk away with some really good takeaways. I'm Nicole Harvey. I am part of the Recharge team. I actually sit on the customer success team. And if you guys don't know what Recharge is, you will after I am done today. I see a lot of familiar faces in here, and it's so great. Recharge, how I like to think of it, is really a unified LTV growth and retention platform. We really do touch on every point of your customer's journey when it comes to subscription management. And subscription management, I would say, has really evolved over the last couple years. It's not just waiting for the next reoccurring order, it's how to retain your customer. And you're doing that in so many different ways, right? You're doing that by surprise and delighting them, gifting them something, to making sure they feel loyal. It's also mitigating churn, right? And you do that through other automation flows like active churn and passive churn recovery, which is really incentivizing your customer in different ways for them to keep staying with you. I could go on and on about all of our tool sets and products, but I will save you that. And if you are interested in learning more, definitely find me during the breaks. But I am joined alongside Kelly Murphy, the GM of Lola, and Scott Kramer, the VP of Growth at AS Beauty. And I'm really excited to sit and talk with them today about striking balance between profitability, retention, and growth. Before we get into it, do you guys want to do a quick intro?
Yes, and I will have lots to say about active churn recovery, so don't worry. Yes, so I'm Kelly, GM of Lola. If you're not familiar with Lola, probably more of the women in the crowd than the men are familiar, but we also sell condoms, lube, so that's just a shout out there. So we are a clean feminine care and sexual wellness brand. So we were founded 8 years ago on the premise of transparency and the idea that if it's going in your body, it should be good for you. So all about good for you ingredients, natural, organic, tampons, pads, condoms, lube, etc. Something also that I will share about my background is that prior to this, I was at Mirror, and prior to that, I was at P-Volve, which is a Smile Direct Club sister company, both of which went under in the past few months. And so I think that's just kind of a note to the point of those were both, kind of growth at all cost companies. And Lola is really kind of focused on profitability. We were recently acquired by Foreign Brands, which made us all the more focused on profitability. And so just kind of a note to, in my own experience, it's very clear what has worked versus what has not worked.
And I'm Scott Kramer, so VP of Growth, AS Beauty. We're a beauty and cosmetics holding company. Like that's the hot topic of today, the holding company aggregator. But we're not VC backed. We're thankfully privately owned and operated from independent families. We're actually part of the co-founders of Elf Cosmetics, so long-standing history in the cosmetic space. 5 brands under the portfolio, so Laura Geller, Mally Beauty, Julep Beauty, Cover FX, and Bliss Skincare, and they kind of range in size anywhere between 1 and 10 million, 10 million plus, and 100 million plus. So a lot of different tactics and kind of ways that we've looked to grow them, but with the focus always on first order profitability and then just understanding LTV, all that stuff that we'll get more into.
Yeah, awesome. Thanks, guys. I'm really excited that you're here. When we were discussing what we wanted to really talk about today, we really all agreed that last year a lot of the conversations were regarding increasing CAC or customer acquisition, CAC, all of that, just trying to get your customers to buy from you. Really, the conversations that we're seeing now is around the profitability, watching your EBITDA very closely, and of course, retention strategies. So I think I would love to both know how Lola and AS Beauty prioritizes profitability alongside retention and some of the key factors that play into that balance.
Sure. Yeah, I'm happy to start. So I think for us, Lola is a heavily subscription business. If you think about tampons, pads, things like that, highly subscribable, comes every month, you get it every month. And so for us, I think profitability and retention are actually one and the same thing. Again, I spent a lot of time at kind of growth at all costs businesses, and What I have found, sorry, I lost my train of thought. I'm like, where am I going with this?
No, that's okay. Your
Yes,
retention strategy.
I'm back, thanks. And so yes, I would say that retention and profitability for us as a subscription business are really kind of one and the same. The cost to acquire a subscriber is so high. And we are in a position where we actually have already a pretty strong subscriber base. And so for us to really close that gap between the churn and losing subscribers and that leaky bucket of then acquiring new subscribers, it's really all about retention tactics for us. And so I would say the vast majority of our focus this year really is on retention, and we very much deprioritized acquisition.
I'm just going to jump in there. I work with Kelly on a weekly basis, I would say. Can you just give them, and we can go into it a little bit more in detail later on, but what you're doing specifically right now with active churn? Because I'm not joking, guys. I see their numbers, and it's pretty insane, their save rate compared to the average. And I just looked yesterday, and you're almost at an 18% save rate. So, like, over-indexing quite a bit from the average. So do you want to talk about that journey?
Yeah, for sure. And to talk about that journey, I have to admit something embarrassing, which is that historically, we did not have much of a kind of sophisticated cancellation flow in general. And so we were really, we had a cancellation survey. So we had an understanding of why people were canceling, but that's it. We just let them cancel and go off on their merry way to our competitors. And so the first step, once Recharge kind of introduced flows, was implementing the active churn recovery flow so that we were not just asking them why they were canceling, but then, of course, trying to win them back with different offers. And what Recharge has given us the ability to do, which is really key for us, is A/B testing different offers. And so that's where we've really found the value here is understanding, if someone is canceling because they have too much product, which is quite common, I think, for a lot of subscription businesses. If they have too much product, is it more likely that we win them back if we say, oh, well, do you want to swap to a different category? Or do we win them back if we give them a 20% off promo code? And if it's promo code that wins, is it 10%, 20%, et cetera? And so you can keep kind of course, iterating on these A/B tests. And so that's what we've been doing. And we've been able to, as Nicole said, continue to just increase our save rate with each iteration based on each kind of A/B testing cycle.
Yeah, it's pretty remarkable. How about you, Scott? What are you guys doing from like a profitability and retention play to balance that out?
Yeah, I mean, retention is obviously very important. We look at the business in kind of two numbers. It's our weighted CAC and then our ad to sales ratio. So we really can't spend much more on marketing if we're not retaining customers. So we've kind of set, as we've had businesses in different sizes, we're really looking at what is that point that if we get to this number in returning customers, that the business can really scale and we can really aggressively start put more money in. Because to the conversation from earlier, it's we're not VC backed. We don't have that money to just hey, go out acquire customers and hopefully this business works long term. So for us, thinking about that, and then other businesses here, I mean, subscriptions is a really easy way to fast track that retention revenue for us. Our products, they last a little bit longer. Our subscription models we're set up on is mostly 4 months, 8 months, and 12 months. So it hasn't been that massive driver for us, but that isn't to say someone else's business has a much shorter kind of cycle of product. And then also for us, the way we look at it is different about what is the profitability of each bundle that we're doing. We're mostly on bundles with subscription, and then we're talking about cost of fulfillment, all those other things that you need to factor in for subscriptions. And kind of that, it's it's great to get someone on a subscription model, but if you're not that much contribution margin positive because it's a heavy product or something like that, it may make more sense to maybe we only send on double items or triple items or things like that to really get the contribution margin up on each one of those returning subscriptions.
I love that. I'm going to kind of jump around a bit because you said something about subscription frequency, and having subscription flexibility is another very big retention tactic, right? So you said you have different frequencies every 4, 8, whatever months. How do you guys look at, using analytics and data to make smart recommendations and changes to your subscription frequency?
We don't, so it's something that we need to, so I'm sure Kelly's got a much better idea.
Okay, so we have to work on that.
Definitely an opportunity.
Okay.
Yeah, I have a few different thoughts, but actually just piggybacking off of that. So I've been working on subscription businesses for several years now, and ordinarily you would think, you want to upsell people into a 3-month subscription, a 6-month subscription, because you're going to increase LTV that way. Something that's been interesting at Lola is when we actually run the numbers, and we're in a very razor thin kind of margin business. When you actually run the numbers and look at COGS, et cetera, what's interesting is 1-month subscribers are actually more valuable to us than 3-month and 6-month subscribers from a financial perspective. And so I think even, getting really granular on your margins and on your COGS and all of that, I think really going through those exercises, which, not to throw past companies I've been under the bus, but we didn't do those exercises in a really rigorous way. I think that's actually one way that you can kind of use data to then more clearly understand to what degree, like, if your margins are not strong here, but then your LTV is really strong for a 3-month or a 6-month or a 1-month subscriber, then can you, offer a higher, steeper discount on the first subscription offer to acquire a subscriber, and then never offer, a discount again. And so, really understanding your margins and COGS, et cetera, are going to kind of unlock some things for you. So that's one way. I have a million ways that we use data, but I think one other to mention is what's been really key for us in the past 6 months or so, I would say, is understanding which marketing channels are actually performing best for you from a retention perspective. It's easy to get into the trap of let's just throw all the spaghetti at the wall and let's do all the things. But maybe it's really email that's performing for you from a retention perspective, and you don't need to, do a ton on SMS, or you don't need to do a ton on some other channels, or maybe you really focus in on, recharge flows or, other kind of like active churn mitigation strategies, but really understanding and running the numbers on which of these channels are performing best for you, and then pouring your probably limited resources and efforts into those select channels.
Yes, it's definitely really all in the numbers. Just a little bit more, just kind of a tangent on the frequency side. I've seen some really big changes with brands that focus on the data when it comes to subscription frequency and sequences. So I've seen an oral brand that I work really closely with. I told them, hey, do you realize that your customers are actually skipping, X months, and you don't offer this frequency? And as soon as they saw the numbers, they were like, oh crap, you're right, we're missing out here. So they added that option, and all of a sudden we started to see a great increase. So I think it's really important that data plays such a big part in it. What I love to ask the brands that I work with is how they engage with their subscriber customers versus their one-time purchasers. And really, part B to that is, how do you convert those one-time purchasers into subscribers?
I'll need to think on this one
Sure.
for a second. 'Cause again, it's not a huge portion of ours, but there's millions of ideas. So I'll think of it and give some good explanations.
Yeah, for sure. So I think we think of our subscription versus one-time purchasers actually in a really clear way, but it took us many years as a business to get there. We think of them actually by category, and so we've got period care, and then we've got sexual wellness. What we've found, which probably makes logical sense, is on the sexual wellness side, it's much more oriented toward one-time purchase, although there are subscribers, so good for them. But they're on the period care side, much heavier on subscription. And so for us, that allows us to take very different strategies and tactics by product category. And so, for instance, to acquire net new period care subscribers, we tend to focus on a retargeting strategy because the CACs are significantly lower. And so we'll retarget either, period care purchasers who have already made a one-time purchase, or people who have taken certain behaviors on our website and show high intent. So we're focused on retargeting on that side, whereas for one-time purchase, for sexual wellness, we get a lot more experimental. And so this is turning into more of a conversation about acquisition, sorry, but but on the one-time purchase sexual wellness side, we'll get more experimental and by necessity really test kind of different bidding strategies. We'll test just different kind of ways to go about acquiring those customers, because we can be a little bit more experimental. CACs by necessity are higher there, and so can we test different white space channels, et cetera. So that's kind of one way we do that.
Yeah, I think for us, I mean, there's a great example of like, you know what, it's more about the person that didn't become a customer at all. How do you get them and really incentivize them in with a great offer? A lot of people use remarketing ads to be like, hey, like either using buy now, pay laters to like, how do you de-risk that purchase or give them a great offer? And like, you know what, if you subscribe and save, you lock them in, they really love the product, they come back and buy. For us, we're very promotional in different ways via email. So for us, it's hard for us to move a one-time buyer to a subscription. And we want them to try a more variety of products. We've got a wide breadth of it, so it's not as much about getting them on that single kind of like regimented flow. But I think again, it's like there's every business you can kind of like analyze and look at. It's like, you know what, if I know that a subscriber is worth 5 times as much, how do I like have a special post-purchase email flow? Hey, you love the product, you should be using it X amount of times, or even just like people that don't know how often they should be using with supplements or things like that. It's like, you know what, do I use this once a day? Do I take it twice a day? And it's like
Education.
The education, yeah. It's all about the education and then convincing them through education that they need to buy it more.
No, education is the biggest thing. You don't always have to give discounts. I think that's what a lot of brands are like so worried that I'm trying to sell them on like discounting 20% to retain your customer. No, a lot of it comes down to the education piece and content, and you can do so much that way to, why should I take this supplement? What is the benefit? Why should I, buy condoms on a subscription? I don't know, like why? This kind of goes nicely into wrapping up the conversation. I think rewarding your customer to get to that milestone order. So, you have them in, you lock them in at that discount, subscribe and save. Okay, you generally see a lot of churn between 2 and 3, order 2 and 3. If you can get your customer over that third order, you have locked them in for a good amount of time. So we have started exploring milestone-based rewards, and I think I would love to get like both your input on how you view rewards, loyalty, and memberships. I guess I'm gonna bundle that all together, and subscriptions. Do they go hand in hand to you? Do you view them differently?
Yeah, it's a great question. I will actually say that we made a recent decision to deprioritize loyalty for this year, in part because, going back to the data question, it's difficult to really assess if your loyalty program is actually driving additional purchases, that those customers are actually more valuable. And so until we can really get to the point where we can prove that out, we're deprioritizing it and kind of focusing on other channels. And I think that's another kind of just goes back to the point of like, I think a lot of brands, myself included at many brands, have just thrown all of the tactics at the wall, but loyalty in particular can be such a black box that, the ability to kind of prove that out can be difficult. Yes.
Yeah, I think also, not to knock loyalty, but it's a complicated thing for some customers to understand. Credit card points, airline points, that makes sense. When you're getting points for buying makeup or kind of like feminine hygiene products, it's like, okay, is this something I should be excited about being rewarded to buy something I'm buying on a daily basis? So finding other ways, I think at the end of the day, what we're saying is getting people to that third purchase is what's the most important, and what are the tactics that do it. Again, I'm not knocking loyalty. It could work for other business. Like I said, airlines, everyone does it. It makes a lot of sense, but figuring out that path, I think we were also saying like memberships. I think membership is something that's like super exciting and interesting. Like thinking about instead of giving them points, because again, points are complicated. You got to gamify it a little bit. They're not coming in and check in for my makeup brand or my cosmetics. Like, oh, I have 1,500 points. What can I get? Like, it's not exciting or cool. So like, if you were to be like, you know what, if you pay, there's something I'm buying on a very regular basis. If I pay a $10 a month membership, what does that unlock for me? That unlocks other opportunities. And then if you think about the economics of it, getting 10,000 customers a month, paying you $10 to be a membership, and be like, you know what, that unlocks, you get free shipping on every other order. I'm just making stuff up at this point. Or like, whatever you can think of, like, you know what, you get a discount on your every third purchase. Like unlocking these more membership incentives that they like pay to play program, I think is way more exciting. And then also just the point system, like it's very risky for larger brands as you like start divvying out points. Like that's stuff that essentially lives on your balance sheet. So if you were to ever shut down a loyalty program, that's a lot of money that you need to buy back those points from people to turn it off. So that's where I'd much rather have people pay me than have to pay them.
Totally agreed. Yeah, and back to the membership point, I think that membership, I agree, it's really exciting, and a different way to think about loyalty. I think that membership can be really valuable if you're able to offer an omni-channel experience. And so, having worked in fitness for the past like 5 years of my career, if you're able to offer an experience where, if you get 10% off every Lululemon purchase, and you also, are able to go to in-person classes, et cetera, because you've subscribed to this digital membership, that's a really rich membership experience. Whereas I think if the membership is kind of purely digital and starts to feel a lot just like a traditional loyalty program, then it, in my experience, doesn't work as well.
Yeah, I think it's getting back to like building a community. I think someone was asking earlier, like, how do I do this without Facebook ads? It's about building a community, building this kind of group of people that are like loyal followers and make it this exciting. Like one of our brands, Lori Geller, we have a group we call the Geller Gals, and it's like, okay, what is exciting about being a Geller Gal? And we do community meetups all around the country, and so it's like it's an exciting thing to become like ambassadors of the program, and then those people become your best sales channels also because they're out there talking about the product, posting about it all the time, and that's essentially free marketing.
Amazing. Well, I appreciate you guys. I know we're wrapping up, right, Abby?
Yeah, we are. Yeah, but thank you so much. That was great.